Hello, Leo. Welcome. Thank you for being here. This is going to be a general read from what we're dealing with. Of course, everything may not resonate, so take what does and leave the rest. And for more tarot readings after this, please check out my wife's channel, Val53 Tarot Pieces Review as well. Thank you. All right, let's see what's going on. Interesting. Well, there you are, Leo. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, Crosswise. Energetically speaking, you're kind of saying never give up, never surrender. Never give up, never surrender. Ooh, goodness gracious. As I'm talking about this, there's the devil. Now, when it comes to never give up, never surrender with that devil energy in there, it could be a bit of a slippery slope. We'll see where this kind of progresses to, but one is, one can kind of, there's a difference between determination and there's a difference between desperation. So the difference between determination and desperation. Determination is confidence, that Leo energy, that strength. Desperation is that devil energy, that fear. So the difference between determination and desperation, Leo, unfortunately, they're showing me desperation, unfortunately. It's that fear, and I've talked about this twice now, once for Aries and who they're dealing with, and as well as for Sagittarius and who they're dealing with that devil energy kind of consuming the mind, the thoughts. It's the fear. That is one hell of a shadow. But jumping into this, by the way, very similar to Aries and who they were asking about or dealing with their energy and kind of like how they're processing and thinking about and feeling about things and everything that the two of you have been through up until this point. When it comes to never give up, surrender, in other words, the motto, knowing one's own motto, knowing why you do what you do, keeping in mind always why there is some sort of goal or pursuit, why you do what you do, in a sense, other words as well. What possesses you to do what you do? The point. What is the point, Crosswatcher? You're saying the point is Leo. Leo is the point. And so, kind of like, for example, with working out or any type of, consistency and dedication and devotion, Sometimes they kind of have to dive deep. Kind of like when they say typically like boot camp or something, dig deep, reach into the depth of your soul and pull out that burning fire and desire to keep going and never give up. Like, do you, in other words, do you have the guts? No guts, nor no glory, they say. Do you have the guts? Do you have what it takes? And that's ultimately what they're kind of doing is they're reaching deep within the pits of their soul and they're saying, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm not going to surrender. The thing is, though, with that devil energy showing up, Crosswatcher, I'm going to have to rip this band aid off. And if you don't have a band aid, duct tape. So ripping the band aid off, ripping the duct tape off, they're saying there's no other way than just to push forward. Which, yes, I agree. But when you push forward with that devil energy out of fear, what you're ultimately saying is instead of fire and determination and love, you've reached within the pits of yourself and you've pulled out fear. And so instead, it's almost kind of like you're talking to your shadow there for a moment. And what's interesting is that sun card shows up, but they're talking to their shadow. And so once again, this will sometimes present itself this way. The sun shows up, but the energetic darkness to the whole thing shows up just as equally. You know, light and dark, a play of energy, you might say. So how can something be so crystal clear, but then be so dark at the same time? That's kind of like saying it's clear that you don't know. Why, Crosswatcher? Why are you saying even with the Leo's energy showing up, when it comes to that energy, it's sort of like everything is out in the open, everything is transparent, everything is honest, everything is like there to see, no place to run, no place to hide. It almost makes me think of the times in school. If for the example, if a student was kind of like tinkering or kind of distracted, or they were kind of doing something else instead of paying attention, the teacher would purposely call on them. Like, do you have the answer? And the student would be like, and they'd kind of, depending on what was going on or what they're kind of distracted with, they'd kind of have like a certain response that would be fitting. This is kind of like one of those times. For example, you, Leo, could be seen as the teacher, trying to show them something or tell them something or teach them something. And instead of being present and mindful and aware, they could have been distracted. Kind of staring out the window, cloud watching, I don't know, doing something else. Like, what were you doing? What were you doing? What were you distracted with? Like, pay attention. Were you listening? Or were you distracted with the birds outside? Well, I saw a cat chasing a bird. Okay. But did you hear anything I said? Did you get the message? Did you get what I was trying to show you? And they're kind of having that, that freeze moment of like a deer in headlights. And that fear right there, like I said, their shadow. I don't know what that is, nor do I understand like why it's sort of like I said, this energy of they claim, and I'm gonna word it this way: they claim to know what they're fighting for. They claim to know what they're not surrendering for. Um, and so when you ask them like what for, that's that. They say they know what they're fighting for. But why did they also show me during the process with that devil energy? They don't know what they're fighting for, contradictingly. They don't want to give up. They don't want to surrender. It's like, no, 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 no. Hold on, teacher. Hold on for the example. Hold on. No, 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 no. I was paying attention. I just got distracted. I was just thinking about something else. I was just kind of, then you weren't. You're trying to backtrack and backpedal. Hmm. And they're kind of like trying to convince the teacher, come on, come on, come on, come on. Wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. Come on, come on, come on. You weren't paying attention. Next time, pay attention. And that's kind of like the interesting part. That's just the example. What I don't understand is the fear, even though they're emphasizing kind of like this mentality of like never give up, never surrender, all or nothing in quotes. With that devil energy showing up out of fear and desperation, they're giving me a contradicting energy of nothing, 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 nothing. Like I said, do you have the answer? Do you know the answer? No. Is not the answer. That's that devil energy, the mental lockup. No. You weren't paying attention. You were someplace else. There's a tower. Makes me think of what's that movie? Captain Soli? When the for in the movie, I think it was what Somali pirates or Somalian pirates. He's like, "Look at me, I am the captain of this ship now," and he kind of like takes over. Crazy movie. Um, but sometimes I don't know what this is. There's some sort of reason about like there's something about this situation, Leo, going back to the example of the student in class. The reason why that student to begin with wasn't paying attention, wasn't being aware, wasn't being present, wasn't being mindful, didn't apparently, it's almost like their attention was someplace else and not on you, Leo. But as soon as it's interesting because this situation, when that devil energy shows up, it's fear. And it's almost kind of like the teacher calling on the student and then being like, huh? And they kind of snap out of it, like snap awake almost. And they're like, and what I'm looking at is them like fumbling and stumbling and stuttering, trying to like come up with an answer. And that right there is kind of like you automatically know you weren't listening, you weren't paying attention, you weren't present, you weren't aware. Where'd you go? Where were you? And how long have you been kind of, someplace, how where were you? Have you been there all along? Or are you kind of just, you're physically there, you're present, but you're not mentally present. You're not energetically present and aware and paying attention. Someplace else in the mind. Far, far away. As they say, the 1,000-yard stare. They just kind of space out. Like, you've seen some shit, you've been through some shit, you've experienced some shit. But right now, right here is where we are. Let's try and anchor that energy and attention here and not be 1,000 yards off. What I don't understand, though, when it comes to the so-called answer to this, I don't know what is going on for them. It's interesting because I actually don't know the point of this message. When it comes to the answer, that's what's very strange. It's almost like they go into that mode of like answer, 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 answer. What is the answer? Ah, I got the answer. But the only way they got to that point was looking around at all the other classmates. So it's like, how'd you get your answer? Did someone tell you the answer? The answer is. Just to kind of save their ass? Because what I don't understand, there's a Three of Swords. Um, why does that tower take place? And that's that realization of like, damn. How energetically speaking, Crosswatcher, how much do you like? How much were you actually present for or aware for? How much were you actually paying attention to? How much did you actually comprehend and grasp? How much did you actually experience and feel? Because there's this energy with that tower of like your mind is sinking, your heart is sinking. It's just kind of like, you're slouched in your chair for the example, like, damn. And everything's kind of hitting you all at once. And once again, it goes back to that energy of like, and back out the window, I'm not here. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. There's another movie called Are You Here Yet? Another good one. Are You Here Yet? Goodness gracious. Crosswatcher. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Excuse me. There's a Three of Wands. Someone waiting. Is it here yet? Are they here yet? Where is it? There you are, Leo. Go figure. Crosswatcher, why do you show me that? Why do you show me that? I feel like, yeah, I kind of feel like what Leo is even emphasizing here is kind of like you weren't like there's like this energy of like come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, like come on teacher. Um, isn't that a song too? Hot for a teacher or something? Could be wrong, but they're like for the example, like come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, and it's like no. What is that? What is that tower moment of like no? Like I said, it's like pay attention next time. Pay attention next time. What is that? I'm looking at, the typical 101010. Actually, it starts off with 0101010, like on off. It's like, like I said, it's like on off, on off, on off, stop and go, stop and go, stop and go, off, on, off, on, off, on, off, on. They're doing that. Almost makes me think of like someone kind of like checking their phone. Yet? No. How about now? No. Screen on, okay, screen off. Screen on, okay, screen off. Screen on, okay, screen off. What is that? Um, Energetically speaking, Leo, once again, I am looking at a third party energy. This is, like I said, this is like an energy where the situation is so difficult. Well, let's just say, for another example, you could be having an argument or a conflict, and you can be so, wrapped up in yourself or wrapped up in your own mind. They might even be spacing out in the middle of a fight or a conflict, being like, unfortunately, Crosswatcher, um, is there even any love here anymore? Is there any even love? Like, do you even love? Because I'm not looking at an energy of bringing and sitting down with a cup of water. Not looking at that. I'm looking at an energy of a lot of lust and passion. And even though there might be a degree or a certain level of love between the two of you, I got love for you, but do I love you? Am I in love with you? Uh, like I said, it kind of shows up. I got love for you, but I might not be in love with you anymore. And that's where that third party energy shows up. Um, and that's what's interesting. Is it's kind of like, well, will things get better? Will things improve? I don't know. I don't know. Or they could be waiting, like I said, for a message or a DM or a phone call from someone else. You know, it's interesting. Looking for love, but from who? Because when there's a Seven of Swords, because what I'm looking at is, like I said, I don't see them bringing necessarily love to the table, Leo, but I also don't see you bringing love to the table. I see there is some sort of connection or relationship and love for one another, but I don't see love being brought to the table. That's kind of like saying, I love you, but I gotta let you go. So therefore, I'm going to be standoffish today and hold and reserve that part of myself. That's what I'm looking at from the both of you. One person leading with passion and lust and desire, and one person leading with sternness and being like, no. My eyes were up here. I don't know what you're doing this for. If it ain't for me, it's for someone else. Crosswatch, you're emphasizing player energy. Yes. You're emphasizing player energy. You're thinking with your head and not this one. That is strategy. That is purely strategy. That is purely strategy. What they're emphasizing is if they can't figure out how to make things work with this third party energy, they're going to go running back or crawling back to you. Yeah, they're making some player-ish moves. It is what it is. They're making some player-ish moves. Like I said, looking for love, but there's that Three of Swords. Not finding it. Not finding it. Like I said, and even then, what they kind of show me is that Eight of Cups as well on top of all that. So just to let you know, whether that's third party, they don't mean nothing to me. Oh, but you're still waiting on them. Or whether that's you, Leo. Crosswatcher, you decide which one is it. Is it Eight of Cups towards the third party, or is it Eight of Cups towards Leo? Because whatever this energy is over here, it almost kind of seems and it feels like they're dealing with the thoughts and the emotions of having to I have to go back to the drawing board and re-strategize. literally what move I'm gonna make to try and figure out how to make something work with someone. And I don't know who that someone is, Leo, unfortunately. And that definitely just feels like a red flag. It doesn't mean put that red flag on your back and call yourself Superman. Goodbye.